Hello students, today we shall study the first lesson of your book Flamingo, and you will be surprised to know the title. Your first lesson is the last lesson. Fine. The last lesson is written by Alphonse Daudet, and he was a French novelist and a short story writer. And this lesson is written in the background of Franco-Persian War, when the Persians had taken over much of Europe. The French districts of Alsace and Lorraine had also come under the Persian rule. And here Persia means the nations of Germany, Poland and parts of Austria. In those days, Persia was the country which was comprises of or which consisted of three nations: Germany, Poland and Austria. And here it is important, some parts of Austria. The writer has written this story in the first person. First person, this is a first person narrative. This story has been narrated through the eyes and words of a young boy, and he is using word I. Whenever we use word I, we in any narrative, we can say it is written in first person narrative. The story expresses the feeling of a child, feeling of a boy who does not understand the meaning of war and the emotions and sentiments of a schoolmaster who has taught in the same town and class for 40 years of his life. Let us go through the chapter. I started for school very late that morning and was in great dread of a scolding. In great dread of a scolding means he was in a great fear that he will be rebuked. So the boy started for school very late that morning. And reason behind that was especially because M. Hamel, who is M. Hamel here? M. Hamel is the teacher, French teacher, had said that he would question us on participles, and I did not know the first word about them. The teacher has given homework. He is going to ask questions on participles, and this boy, friends, doesn't know the first word about them. For a moment, I thought of running away. Who thought of running away? This boy, French. For a moment, I thought of running away and spending the day out of doors. This came to in his mind that he should bunk the school. And he gives two reasons. First reason, he has told he doesn't know the single word about participle. Second thing he said, it was so warm, so bright. The birds were chirping at the edge of the woods, and in the open field back of the sawmill, the Persian soldiers were drilling. Birds were chirping, weather was bright and warm, and the Persian soldiers were marching. It was very tempting to see them marching. Marching here means left, right. They were marching. It was all much more tempting than the rule of participles, but I had the strength to resist. Here we come to know about two good qualities of this boy, French. First thing, he was a great observer. He can observe the things nearby him very minutely. He at once came to know that weather is very bright, birds are chirping, and Persian soldiers were drilling. It was all much more tempting than the rule of participle, but I had the strength. Second good quality, in spite of all these temptation, the boy has strength to resist. He has strength to resist, to say no to this temptation, to oppose this temptation, and he hurried off to school. When I passed the town hall, there was a crowd in front of the bulletin board. So while he is going to school, he passed town hall, and in the town hall there is a bulletin board. And what is the purpose of that board? For the last 2 years, all our bad news had come from there. The lost battles, the draft, the orders of the commanding officer, and I thought to myself without stopping, what can be the matter now? Because he has no time to stop, but it came to in his mind. This is again his same quality of observing the things. So he observed a crowd in front of bulletin board. Then I hurried by as fast as I could go. The blacksmith, watcher, who was there with his apprentice reading the bulletin, called after me, "Don't go so fast, bub. You will get to your school in plenty of time." I thought he was making fun of me and reached M. Hammel's little garden all out of breath. All out of breath. He was running fast, and because he was running fast, he was in hurry. He started panting. Okay. Usually when school began, again observation, his observation. Usually when school began, there was a great bustle which could be heard out in the street, the opening and closing of desks, lessons repeated in unisons, together at the same time. Very loud with our hands over our ears to understand better, and the teacher's great ruler rapping on the table. When the teacher strike his ruler on the table, but now it was all so still. Difference. Earlier times there was a lot of noise that could be heard outside, but today it was all so still. I had counted on the commotion to get to my desk without being seen. So he was in confusion, he was in hurry. Commotion here means confusion, and counted on relied. Just by he was habitual of doing these things, so without counting the desk, he hurriedly go to his seat. He tried to go to his seat. That day everything had to be as quiet as Sunday morning. That day everything was as quiet as Sunday morning. Through the window I saw my classmates already in their places, and M. Hamel walking up and down with his terrible iron ruler under his arm. Observation. I had to open the door and go in before everybody. You can imagine how I blushed and how frightened I was, because he was late. And when you are late, you enter in the class, you are also very embarrassed. But nothing happened. M. Hamel saw me and said very kindly, "Go to your place quickly, little French. We were beginning without you." So that day M. Hamel was also different. Okay, he didn't rebuke. I jumped over the bench and sat down at my desk. Now till then, when I had got a little over my fright, when he was comfortable, little over my fright means he was comfortable, did I see that our teacher had on his beautiful green coat, his frilled shirt, and little black silk cap, all embroidered, that he never wore except on inspection and prize days. Again he observed another important thing: the teacher has put on special clothes, some ceremonial kind of clothes he has put on. Black shirt and the little black silk cap. Sorry, cap is black and shirt is frilled shirt with green coat. Fine. That he never wore except on inspection and prize days. Besides, the whole school seemed so strange and solemn, but the thing that surprised me most was to see the school was strange, the school was solemn, everything shocked him, but the thing shocked him most was on the back benches that were always empty, the village people sitting quietly like ourselves. Old Hosher with his three-cornered hat, the former mayor, the former postmaster, and several others besides. Everybody looked sad, and Hosser had brought an old primer, thumbed at the edges, and he held it open on his knees with his great spectacles lying across the pages. Fine. So on that day, things were different. It was silence, stillness was there, seriousness was there, and the villagers were also sitting on back benches, which used to remain empty most of the time. And another important thing, M. Hamel has put on special clothes on that day. Thank you. We shall study more in our next lesson. Thank you. Let us read it further. While I was wondering about it all, M. Hamel mounted his chair and in the same grave and gentle tone which he had used to me, said. Now, all of a sudden, when things were happening like that, and little Franz was wondering why these things are happening, why the school is different on that day, what happens? M. Hamel mounted on the chair, and mounted here means he climbed on the chair. And what did he declare? These are the most important lines of this chapter. My children, this is the last lesson I shall give you. The order has come from Berlin to teach only German in the schools of Alsace and Lorraine. The new master comes tomorrow. This is your last French lesson. I want you to be very attentive. This paragraph gives answer to many questions. And the most important line of this paragraph is, the order has come from Berlin to teach only German in the schools of Alsace and Lorraine. So now French will not be taught there, because the message, the order has come from Berlin that only German will be taught. So M. Hamel is supposed to deliver his last lesson to students, and that's why he requests all the students, all the people sitting over there, to be more attentive. What a thunderclap these words were to me. For little Franz, these words were very startling. Oh, the wretches! That was what they had put up at the town hall. Again, this boy is a very good observer. Now he all of a sudden came to know this was the reason. This is what the wretches has put on the bulletin board, and that's why there was so much crowd there. My last lesson, my last French lesson. Why? I hardly knew how to write. I should never learn anymore. I must stop there then. Oh, how sorry I was for not learning my lessons, for seeking birds' eggs, or going sliding on the Saar. So now this boy is rebuking himself that he was not serious in his studies, or he was not serious with his studies. My books that had seemed such a nuisance a while ago, so heavy to carry, my grammar and my history of the saints were old friends now that I couldn't give up. All of a sudden, he develops love for his books. Earlier, these books were burden for him. And M. Hamel too. The idea that he was going away, that I should never see him again, made me forget all about his ruler and how cranky he was. Earlier, M. Hamel was very cranky for him, and he was afraid of his ruler, but all of a sudden he forgot everything about him. He started liking his books and the teacher. Poor man, it was in honor of this last lesson that he had put on his fine Sunday clothes. Repeat it. Poor man, it was in honor of this last lesson that he had put on his fine Sunday clothes. And now I understood why the old man of the village were sitting there in the back of the room. Here comes the answer why villagers have come there. Although we know in advance this was the last lesson. But again, why have they come? The reason? It was because they were sorry too that they had not gone to school more. It was their way of thanking our Master for his 40 years of faithful service and of showing their respect for the country that was theirs no more. So they were there to give respect to the country which was theirs no more, and they want to thank M. Hamel for his 40 years of faithful service. Fine. While I was thinking of all this, I heard my name called. It was my turn to recite. What would I not have given to be able to say that dreadful rule of participles all through, very loud and clear, and without one mistake? But I got mixed up on the first words and stood there, holding on to my desk, my heart beating, and not daring to look up. Now, one question was asked from little Franz, and he stood with confidence. He started speaking, but he got mixed up. I heard M. Hamel say to me, I won't scold you, little French. You must feel bad enough. Very interesting. On that day, M. Hamel's behavior is totally different. He said, I won't scold you. Don't worry, little friend, मैं तुम्हें डांट नहीं लगाऊंगा. तुम्हें खुद ही बुरा लग रहा होगा. You must feel bad enough. See how it is? Every day we have said to ourselves, Bah, I have plenty of time, I will learn it tomorrow. And now you see where we have come out. Oh, that's the great trouble with Elsek. She puts off learning till tomorrow. Here she word stands for the people of Elsek who kept on postponing their learning. Now those fellows out there will have the right to say to you, how is it you pretend to be Frenchmen and yet you can neither speak nor write your own language? But you are not the worst, poor little French. We all a great deal to reproach ourselves with. So here M. Hamel says, those Persians will put questions. They will ask, you pretend to be Frenchmen? आप नाटक करते हैं Frenchman होने का? And the fact is that you are unable to speak, you are unable to write your language, and they have full right, M. Hamel says. Your parents were not anxious enough to have you learn. They preferred to put you to work on a farm or at the mills so as to have the little more money. Fine. So he says, your parents were also not interested. They were not eager to make you learn. They preferred to send you to farm to make more money. And I have been to blame also. Have I not sent you to water my flowers instead of learning your lessons? And when I wanted to go fishing, did I not just give you a holiday? So here M. Hamel accepts that he was also responsible for these things. He takes blame on him. Then from one thing to another, M. Hamel went on to talk of the French language, saying that it was the most beautiful, and let us continue, language in the world, the clearest, the most logical, that we must guard it among us. So he says the language, French language especially, was most beautiful language, most logical, and the clearest language of the world. And he expected French people to guard it among themselves. And why? He gives the logic, very strong logic. Because when us people are enslaved, as long as they hold fast to their language, it is as if they had the key to their prison. So he says, as long as they keep this language alive in among themselves, it is as if they have the key to their freedom, they have key to this prison. So through this language, they can get their freedom back. Then he opened a grammar and read us our lesson. I was amazed to see how well I understood it. All he said seemed so easy, so easy. I think too that I had never listened so carefully and that he had never explained everything with so much patience. Today his teaching was different, and today students like French were also very attentive. So everything seemed very easy. It seemed almost as if the poor man wanted to give us all he knew before going away and to put it all into our heads at one stroke. After the grammar, we had a lesson in writing. That day, M. Hamel had new copies for us, written in beautiful round hands. France, France, Alsec, France, Alsec. They looked like little flags floating everywhere in the schoolroom, hung from the road at the top of the desks, at the top of our desks. You ought to have seen how everyone set to work and how quiet it was. The only sound was the scratching of the pens over the paper. Once some beetles flew in, but nobody, beetles here means insects, but nobody paid any attention to them, not even the littlest ones who worked right on tracing their fish hooks. As if that was French too. On the roof, the pigeons cooed very low, and I thought to myself, will they make them sing in German, even the pigeons? This is a very important line of this chapter where French makes fun of Persians. They make fun of this decision that language German imposed on them. He says, he asks, he satires, will they make them sing in German, even the pigeons? So he made a satire on Germans. Will you make them sing in German, even the pigeons? Important thing is that we can't impose language on others. Fine. Whenever I looked up from my writing, I saw M. Hamel sitting motionless in his chair and gazing first at one thing, then at another, as if he wanted to fix in his mind just how everything looked in that little schoolroom. Fancy! For 40 years he had been there in the same place with him, with his garden outside the window and his class in front of him. Just like that, only the desks and benches had been worn smooth. The walnut trees in the garden were taller, and hope vine that he had planted himself twined about the windows to the roof. How it must have broken his heart to leave it all. The person who was serving from last 40 years there, how tough it will be for him, how must have broken his heart, how it must have broken his heart to leave it all. आज उसे ये देश, ये जगह, ये सिटी छोड़ते हुए कितना दुख हो रहा होगा जहाँ पर उसने जीवन के 40 साल बिताए हैं. पुअर मैन, बेचारा आदमी. To hear his sister moving about in the room above packing their trunks, for they must leave the country next day. So his sister is doing packing, but he had the courage to hear every lesson to the very last. After the writing, we had a lesson in history, and then the babies chanted their ba, bee, bee, boo, boo, bo, boo like. Down there at the back of the room, old Hosher had put on his spectacles and holding his primer in both hands, spelled the letters with them. You could see that he too was crying, his voice trembled with emotion. And it was so funny to hear him that we all wanted to laugh and cry. Oh, how well I remember it, that last lesson. All at once, the church clock struck 12. Then the Angelus. At the same moment, the trumpets of the Persians returning from drill sounded under our windows. M. Hamel stood up very pale in his chair, and I never saw him look so tall. He stood in the chair, and he was very tall. My friend, said he, I, but something choked him. He could not go on. He couldn't speak complete sentence. Then he turned to the blackboard, took a piece of chalk, and bearing on with all his might, with all his strength, with all his might, he wrote as large as he could, Vive la France. Long live France. Then he stopped and learnt his leaned his head against the wall, and without a word, he made a gesture to us with his hands. So he was speechless, he was full of emotions, he overwhelmed with emotions, he was unable to say anything. With full strength, with full might, he wrote on the board, Vive la France, and in the end, he couldn't say anything. He made a gesture to us with his hands. School is dismissed. You may go. So in the end, he was unable to say anything. He could just made gesture. He could just made a gesture to us with his hand, and he asked us to go because school is dismissed. So this way your lesson finishes. Thank you. For further explanation, we shall meet again.